Right, the mission is about to begin. We're back again. ISS Intrepid, captained by Captain Carol Burnett and her crew. This recording thought a little bit about the backstory and the results from the previous life events and contacts between PCs. Starting to build a little story here that kind of makes sense. And hopefully we're going to start looking at least the big picture stellar mapping of the subsector they're going to explore. So a little background here. This, of course, is a brand new subsector. Hasn't been explored by the Imperium, and so for a scout captain especially, this would be a great assignment if they're truly a scout and they want to do what scouts do, and that's explore new subsectors. So looking at our captain here, revisiting her background that was rolled up. She was born on an agricultural planet. Her family was into farming, maybe large, a combine, etc. But I haven't figured it out yet. But something political occurred, on her homeworld she was involved in, and she was cast as the villain or one of the villains in this political turmoil on her homeworld. Maybe later I can spend some time and think about what it was. But the bottom line was, this made her a villain for the whole planet, thanks to the press, and at a rather young age, so basically that motivated her to get off the planet and get away. Um, and what better way to do that than to join the Imperial Scout Service? So that's what she did. She went through her training, her education, and then on her first stint, she's several years, actually she went on an extended scouting tour in this first term. Lots of jumping. I think she made the scout service her ideal, and she was able to advance quickly. Um, and during this time, there was a contact who helped her because she was still recovering from this whatever happened on the homeworld in this political turmoil. So she has a contact which may come up later. So that was her first. She got a lot of experience. Now she's a scout, a solid scout, experienced. And then in her second term, she actually contacted an alien species. First to contact, I guess we'll call it first contact of an alien species, which was noticed, and she advanced. But also during this time, she met Sunny, who was, I believe, I don't know the details, maybe on her crew or affiliated. There's a larger scout ship, so maybe she was on the larger scout ship with the larger crew. So she met Sunny, and however, they got married at the end of the term. Um, so that's where the connection with Sunny started. Um, so promoted, and then the third one, she was involved in some kind of prominent rescue mission, um, and saved somebody's life. So she's got another contact here. I can't do bold, so got another high up contact. But to connect her and Sunny's stories, now I'm going to say somehow this got on the press or got notoriety, or she got some, and she came to the attention of a petty noble, a bored petty noble who likes to play games with people, and he led her on and got her to get a divorce from Sunny, and destroyed Sunny from a bankrupt point of view. And when this petty noble got tired of the game, or got everything he wanted, he discarded her. And she was naive. She didn't know any better. I mean, from her background, she doesn't know much about the nobility or the whatever. And that at that point, she realized her terrible mistake, especially towards Sunny, because Sunny's reaction, we'll talk about that later, was, enough of this. You see, in Sunny, he had a horrible experience. His social standing went down, and this pretty much explains it. This petty noble here, messing with their lives. and therefore now she carries this guilt about what she did, specifically what she did to Sonny. Because following this, Sonny was crushed. We'll see that in his backstory, and his career actually, it kind of started wandering at this point. He couldn't get over this. I mean, the bankruptcy didn't help, but then this whole experience caused him to become somewhat, lost, both in life and his career. So, with that at the backstory, but it didn't affect, from a career point of view, Carol, or really Sonny, except for the bankruptcy, and now he's kind of aimless on his career. But Carol is still a well-known captain, well-regarded captain, and this plum assignment came up to to explore a whole new subsector, and she's wanting to, get out of the center, get out of the bureaucracy, the politics. I mean, she got burned on her home world. She got burned after this on a personal level. So she puts her name in the hat, and she is a well-respected captain, so she does get the job. She'll be meeting the Intrepid on the edge of the subsector. It's been overhauled, refurbished. It's in great condition. And like most captains, they get to pick their crew. Um, and if you read a little on the Scout Service, some of these scouts can be manned by just 2 people. Scout Service is pretty lenient on married crews because that helps on extended deployments, exploration, especially if it's only 2 of crew. So from that point of view, married crew is not necessarily frowned upon in the Scout Service, but divorced crew members hardly ever comes up, and um, that's a bit tougher. So she pulled in some markers, some favors, etc., and on purpose got Sonny assigned as her engineer, second in command. Um, 2 goals here. Sonny, like we said, is kind of still recovering from this whole event, so trying to help Sonny get his career back on track. And also, I mean, from her point of view, she's hoping this is a chance for some sort of reconciliation. So this explains, the relationship with Sonny, and this explains how Sonny gets on the crew. She had to pull in some favors, but she got Sonny assigned. She is the captain after all. So Sonny's on the crew, and this is the goal. When we get to Sonny, we'll talk about what he thinks about being on the same crew as Carol, but that's it. Sonny's on. We'll talk about the astrogator later, but basically she was presented with a list of astrogators. He was on the list, some better, some worse. But I think I think he had a problem where he was um, jailed for a wrong reason, and his family was ruined, etc. Um, and she's just taking it now one step further. He's a perfectly capable astrogator, and she's kind of like she can identify with that, with the bureaucracy, the nobility, all of that whole system being unfair and you know attacking people and throwing them away. And so she picked him. Say, well, let's give him a good chance or help him to get away from his past. So you're seeing even she's getting away from her past too. And then so that accounts for Bob the Astrogator. Just picked him on a list, saw that in his background, could identify with it, and said, okay, I'll take him. And then Mary actually has her own problems. We'll talk about that later. She was involved in some exploration that involved a few major corporations. A little backstory there. There was a planet. There was some indigenous life, but it got in the way of what the corporation wanted, but it did break the rules. So she reported it, which generated some enemies, but she also has some high-up contacts in the Scout Service and our bureaucracy. So Carol intended to just wait to see who got assigned to her as a field researcher, but high up in the Scout Service reached out to her um, and said, "Hey, Mary Moore is asking if she can be part of your crew." And actually, Carol and Mary had met briefly during this term, she wasn't on the crew with Carol, but they had worked together because contact with an alien species, and Carol was impressed with Mary. When we talk about Mary, you'll see she's pretty sharp. She had a breakthrough in her first career, and when this came up, I mean, Carol just said, "Sure, I'd love to have somebody I already know, and I know she's good. So let's have Mary on board." So there we go. Now, all that rolling, I think we have a solid story here on what's going on. And yes, as one of my viewers pointed out, this relationship is kind of flipped, but it's like the Orville if you follow that. The captain actually got captain and the XO and the Orville were married before, and they had problems, and they broke up, and his career went south. And then she pulled in some markers to get him the Orville as the captain, and she joined the crew as the second in command. So similar to the Orville, just flipped here with Carol in charge. So there we go. We've got a somewhat coherent backstory. Feel free to comment. But our next step here, as the crew is forming, meeting up on the outpost base, which I haven't defined yet, and the Intrepid is getting its final checks after its overhaul, provisioning, etc. The first thing we need to do is map out from a big picture the stellar information on the sector. So if we look at the explorers, let's see, this one. This is the solo, and you'll see the solo rules when it comes to system generation matches what's in Traveler in the Explorer book, so that's good. And the first thing you do now, mapping the subsector, mark here, you go through and for every hex you roll, and every hex that gets a 4, 5, and 6 mark it. That indicates a stellar and significant world there. Yeah, world is present. Okay. And then what we'll do after that, and you can play with that 50% chance, but we'll leave it at that. And then once that, and this is long range scanning, once each hex has been checked, go back and generate the first 3 characteristics of the primary planet or body in that sector, and that would be size, atmosphere, and hydrographics. And then we record that. Okay. And it does says arbitrarily, and I'll play with this maybe on special events, but everything, this is a true open sector, no real starport, no real population, no government, law level tech. If you look at the Traveler rules, you do have rolling capability for all of these, so you can get a totally pre-generated rule. And the name will just be the 4-digit hex code to start. Okay. And then based on that information, the crew will be able to map out how they want to explore. And all of this is pretty much matched in the, here's the standard Traveler rules in the Explorer section. And it matches it completely. So I could use either to do this. There's the 1/2 chance, 4, 5, or 6. And then starport, we're going to have an X. It's not going to have bases. This is a big one. Both of them say gas giants. Key for our crew is true, because that's how they can refuel by skimming. So you have to roll 2d6, and if you get a 9 or lower, there's a gas giant. And then here is, of course, the quick way to do it. World profiles. You put the name, the hex number, and then you go through and you put starport quality, size, atmosphere, hydrographic. And like I said, starport's going to be X, and we're going to do these first 3. And that'll set us up then for planning out our route and timing to determine our 6 months exploration. Okay. So we're going to do a few of these and then stop just so you all can see how it looks. And then at the end of the tape, I'll put the end product. So here, this time, well, I guess I can use I'm using Vassal here to help me mark this stuff. So I'm just going to start here and start rolling. I don't have a D6 on this, unfortunately, so I'll have to do it this way. Let's make sure here. So let's say this is the first one, 0101, and we see the roll is a 3. Nothing there. Then we go to the next one, a 5. Okay, so I'm going to mark it with this and say, hey, we're going to have to come back to this. There we go. And then we go to 0103. I'll do the whole roll here. That's a 4. Whoa, that's packing it in there. See if I can get that. Yep. The next one, 2. Nope. 5 now. Nope. 6. Nope. Wow, that's pretty sparse. 7. Finally, 7 has something. Okay. Now we're going to roll for 8. 8 doesn't. We roll for 9. 9 doesn't. And the last roll for that roll is 10. 10 does. So interesting pattern there. So this just means we're going to come back and do individual rolls for these here to determine what exactly is there. This maybe could be the starting outpost base. We'll see. So like I said, that's all we're doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording here, roll for the rest of the sector map, and then when we come back, or actually no, let's do this just to get the full effect here. And then I'll come back at the end and show you the end result, or leave a picture. But once we've rolled that, next we need to roll for size, I believe. Yeah, so the first one, we do size, and size is 2D minus 2. Diameter, bigger planet, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a notepad here so I can record it as we do each one. So I'll put this, I don't know, right here. So we're rolling for this first guy here. That's a problem. This will keep disappearing on us. And we're just going to do a 2D minus 2. And you'll see this does the same thing. It's a little more laid out different. They've got a nice survey sheet. When you actually survey it, you'll actually get all the planets, etc. But for what we're doing, and it's pretty far down here. Surveying the system, we're not that far. Orbiting planets, other stars. That's interesting. We may come back and look at that. Main world, there's the gas giants. The main world is placed next to the habitable zone of the roll 1d6, place the main world by counting out. Oh, this is more for when we actually survey it. But if we just want to get the size, naming, there's the size, 2d6 minus 2. So it does match up all that just to 2d minus 2. So for this first planet, we'll roll 2d, and we'll subtract 2. And its size is a 3. Oops, let's see what that is. Yeah, well, it's not very big. So let's see if we can get this here. So I'm going to do it this way for now and then transpose it, size 3. Okay. And there's the info on it. Let me pull this over here. Yeah, here we see size, and here's some more. It's the same thing, size 3. It is the size of Mercury. It's a good reference. Okay. So file that away. Yeah, it's not an asteroid. Its gravity is 0.25, so it's a low gravity world. Then we roll for the atmosphere, 2D minus 7, adding the planet size. It may not have one. So let's do atmosphere. So 2D minus 7 plus the planet size. Well, the planet size is 3, so it's going to be 2D minus 4. So let's see what we get here. 2D. Ouch, 0. It's got no atmosphere. Holy smoke. Yep, 0, none. Yep, if I want to explore that, we're going to have to be in a vac suit. Okay. And the last thing we have to do is, figure out the hydro. If there's any water, but I doubt that. Now that we've got no atmosphere, let's read the rule. 0 to 10, surface liquids. So, let's see. Here we go. Size 0 or 1, which we aren't actually. Atmosphere is 0, though. We're going to have a DM of -4. So it's 2D minus 11. Well, I doubt seriously there's going to be anything on this. Yeah, that's nothing. So no fluid or water. Okay, so that's our example of this planet. It's pretty much like Mercury almost. So let's do one more thing here. Let's look at the hydrographic. We can start building that out. There it is. Okay, we don't have a name for this, so let's see if I can make this work. Gonna do this. Oh, and we got to roll for a gas giant. That's good. Okay, so it's a dry planet. I'm gonna kind of did this before here. And yep, there's a property show. No, that's not it. Hold on. Dry planet. Delete sector object properties. That's what I wanted. So we know it's 0102. I'm not going to put that in. We said starport X. Size is 3. And then 0, 0. I'm just going to leave that for now. I know there is pop, gov, law, tech, but there's probably nobody on here. Actually, I could probably finish that out. For now, the solo rules say mark it as 0. I'll just do this. And this is the stuff. Who knows, maybe there's something inside it. Then we click OK. And yeah, that's the beginnings of our planet. There it is. Starport, no, size 3, no atmosphere, no water, and a bunch of zeros. So what we do then is go through and do this for every place where we find it. But let's do one more. There's potentially gas giants or more. If we roll a 9, I think, this is going to disappear in a second. Hold on. Let's move it over here. And let's see. Gas giant. Yeah, there's gas giant. Where do you? It mentions that somewhere. Oh, here we go. I mean, this is it. It's got to be a 9 or less on 2d6. So, is there a gas giant 9 or less? The way I've been rolling. Oh, wow. No gas giant. Wow, this is a dead-end place. Yep. That's 12, I think. So, no gas giants. So, why would you go here? There's our first example of a place maybe we don't feel like visiting. Okay? So, there's your example of rolling. I'm going to go ahead and roll these offline, and then I guess in a later video I'll show you. But this gave you an example of how we generate the subsector map. First we determine if there's anything there, and then at least for our initial pass to decide on what to explore, our long-range densometer, I guess they call it, and scanning, we can at least figure out with the main body its size, its atmosphere, and are there any liquids or water present. And gas giant. Gas giant. Okay, and then based on that, we go from there. Now, this doesn't look like a likely place for an Imperial Scout base, so maybe hopefully this will be better. Or over here, or something on the edge is where we'll put our outpost of the Imperium, which is where the Intrepid will start. So hopefully this gave you an idea. We did spend some time on the backstory of our crew. It seems reasonable. Back again, and as you can tell from the screen, finished the initial mapping here, identifying where systems are on the subsector map and also the gas giants. So now beyond that, I also randomized what side the base scout base will be on, and then basically ended up with this side and then rolled the dice and figured out it would be right here. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little. And then based on that, just to start out the initial plan, went ahead and then rolled the first three characteristics of the main planet in each of these star systems. And here's the icon for our ISS Intrepid. And right here we see the starting place. Represents a scout base. There's a gas giant here. And the planet that's here is size 2, atmosphere 1, not very much, and no hydrographic, no water. So it's basically they put in a prefab kind of scout base here. And this is a starting point. I did start building a spreadsheet here to identify. This is 0807. And here it is right here. And we see the size is Luna, like the moon. Trace atmosphere. You need a vac suit to go outside. And there are no fluids on the... Actually, the size of this is a moon. So this is where our starting scout base is. And then went ahead and basically within 2 jumps went ahead and mapped out the initials on all the other main planets in these different places. Got some interesting, rather large system here. We got an A. That means 10. So that's somewhat bigger. But then also this gives more details here. And then actually, as they plan out where they're going to go first, jump 1 maybe. The goal, I guess, in the first 6 months will be to map out the area close by. And if you look at the atmosphere from the point of colonization, here are a bunch of results here. Obviously, non-vac suit, very thin, respirators, respirator, air supply, exotic. There's our large, well, there's a large, yeah, AA. 2 times bigger than Earth, 1.4 gravities, exotic air. And then the rest, respirator, vac suit, respirator, filter. So, but these 3 stand out in not needing any kind of breathing apparatus. This one is tempting right here, and it's located 0609 right over here. So that probably won't be in the initial review, but the other problem is here it's almost all water. So probably not for settlement. Could be used though. Then we look at this one, slightly greater than Mars, thin atmosphere. I don't need any breathing help, and it's not full of water. It's a little over half of water, and it's 0707. That's right here. So this would be a tempting place to go, and then it has access to these too. And if we look at this one, slightly smaller than Earth, 0.9 gravities. Yeah, this one is almost just a half a gravity. Thin none, but again, this one has a lot of water, 0809. So that one is also tempting. They could get there right away. But then once you're there, you're surrounded by all these dry planets, main planets. So if, basically the crew reviews this, confer with the scout base, and it looks like their first destination will be here. Their rough plan over the 6 months would be probably to survey as much as possible all the stuff within 2 jumps. Maybe come down around here. We'll see how time permits, but they're going to start here. And then based on the results, continue on looking at these. But again, the big 3 are this one. This one is down out of the way, kind of. And then over here. So that could be the return trip. With a jump too, they can also be selective if they want. So there we go. That's our initial mapping here. And the crew is preparing their plan here. So the next thing, the next video I'm going to record is the detailed planet survey information, but I got to do it for here. The crew's not necessarily going to do it because there's already a scout base here, but you'll see this. We'll do the detailed mapping of the system, and this will mainly come out of the solo book. And then after that, we will begin the survey. So, thanks for listening. If you like, click like. And if you want to know when the next one is done, please click subscribe.